Number 10. Daewoo Motors. Daewoo Motors was a South Korean automotive company established in 1937 as National Motors. The company changed its name several times until 1982 when it became Daewoo Motors following its acquisition by the Daewoo Group. In Europe, Daewoo Motor introduced the Aspero and Nexia models in 1995, followed by the Lanos, Nubira, and Leganza. In 1998, the small city car Daewoo Matiz was presented, which was a huge success in Europe. In Italy, it won the title Car of the Year 3 times in a row. Prior to the Asian financial crisis, Daewoo was the second largest conglomerate in South Korea, but fell under huge debts and went bankrupt in 1999. After running into financial difficulties, it sold most of its assets in 2002 to General Motors at $1.2 billion, becoming a subsidiary of the American company. In 2011, the name Daewoo was definitively removed, with the company being renamed GM Korea and the Daewoo brand replaced by the Chevrolet mark. Number 9. Trabant. Trabant is a series of small cars produced from 1957 until 1991 by former East German car manufacturer VB Sachsenring Automobilwerk Zwickau. 4 models were made: the Trabant 500, Trabant 600, Trabant 601, and the Trabant 1.1. The first model, the 500, was a modern car when it was introduced. It featured a Duraplast body on a one-piece steel chassis, front-wheel drive, a transverse 2-stroke engine, and independent suspension. Because this 1950s design remained largely unchanged until the introduction of the last model, the Trabant 1.1 in 1990, the Trabant became symbolic of the former East Germany's stagnant economy and the collapse of the Eastern Bloc in general. Called a spark plug with a roof, 3,096,999 Trabants were produced. Older models have been sought by collectors in the United States due to their low cost and fewer restrictions on the importation of antique cars. The Trabant also gained a following among car tuning and rally racing enthusiasts. Number 8. Hummer. One of the most iconic SUV brands of recent history, Hummer started its life as a military vehicle, the Humvee. Celebrity endorsement boosted the appeal of the Hummer as a go-anywhere invincible vehicle. In 1998, General Motors purchased the brand name from AM General and marketed 3 vehicles: the original Hummer H1, based on the military Humvee, as well as the new H2 and H3 models that were based on smaller, civilian-market GM platforms. Sales peaked at 71,000 in 2006, but high fuel prices and the 2008 GM restructuring doomed the Hummer's fate. Rather than being transferred to the Motors Liquidation Company as part of the GM bankruptcy in 2009, the brand was retained by GM to investigate its sale. No final deal was made, and in 2010, Hummer dealerships began shutting down. Although discontinued in 2010, Hummer returned as a sub-brand of GMC in 2020. Number 7. American Motors Corporation. Resulting from the merger between Hudson Motor Company and Nash Kelvinator Corporation in 1954, AMC was born from, at the time, the largest cooperate merger in American history. Looking to exploit gaps and niches left by America's Big Three, AMC competed with the likes of Studebaker and Packard. Off-road cars were part of its product line after AMC acquired Kaiser Jeep in 1970. Despite their hugely successful cars, which kept the company afloat during the 1970s, its lineup continued to age. Success wouldn't last, with a combination of badly timed products and poor management decisions driving the company into bankruptcy. After periods of intermittent independent success, Renault acquired a major interest in American Motors in 1979, and the company was ultimately acquired by Chrysler in 1987. Number 6. Holden. To many Australians and New Zealanders, Holden was an iconic homegrown brand that went toe-to-toe with Ford and often won. Originally, Holden started out as a saddle maker in South Australia in 1856, but the family owners transitioned into building cars in 1908. General Motors bought the company in 1931, and with heavy investment, Holden dominated the car market during the 1950s. Intended to build Australian cars, many of the actual vehicles produced are reworked GM designs. Icons such as the Monaro launched in 1968 and survived until 2007 in third-generation form. In the 2000s, Holden started losing ground. In February of 2020, GM announced that Holden would be retired as a brand in 2021 and would completely leave Australian and New Zealand markets. Number 5. Mercury. In the 1930s, Ford created the Mercury brand to fill the pricing gap between the Ford-badged cars and the premium Lincoln brand. Mercury competed with automakers of the time like DeSoto, Hudson, and Studebaker, but outlasted most of them. It hit its peak in the 1950s, entering the decade as the 6th most popular brand in the US. However, the depression at the end of the 50s hurt brands like Mercury, forcing an entry into the compact car segment. Mercury's Marquis and Grand Marquis proved to be very popular models for several decades from the 1960s through the 2000s. It was the 1980s when the decline really started, though. The Mercury line was modernized, and the 1990s started to look promising with high sales of the Mercury Villager minivan in 1993. However, as brands like Acura and Lexus started gaining traction in the US, the company saw a dip. In 2010, Ford announced the end of the Mercury in order to focus on the Ford and Lincoln brands. In its dying year, Mercury had just a single % share of overall sales in America and moved just 93,000 vehicles. Number 4. Rover. Rover is a British automotive mark that was used for over a century, from 1904 to 2005. It was launched as a bicycle maker called Rover Company in 1878, before starting to manufacture autocars in 1904. Rover was one of the most iconic British car brands, which was responsible for giving the world the original Land Rover and Range Rover. The brand used the iconic Viking longship as its logo. The rights to the mark are currently part of Jaguar Land Rover, but no Rover vehicles are currently in production and the mark is considered dormant. Number 3. Pontiac. By far, one of the most iconic brands in American history, Pontiac was first incorporated in 1926. This name refers to Pontiac, a great Native American chief of the Ottawa tribe. It was an icon of the 1950s and 1960s and was introduced as a cheaper alternative to more expensive luxury cars in its class. It was marketed as an athletic brand specializing in integrating performance into vehicles. Pontiac was responsible for some unforgettable cars in American lore, including the Silver Streak, the Firebird, and the GTO. Facing financial problems and restructuring efforts, GM announced during the 2008 financial crash that it would discontinue the Pontiac brand by the end of 2010, as was the case with Oldsmobile in 2004. The last Pontiac badged cars were built in December 2009, with one final vehicle assembled in January 2010. Number 2. Saab Automobile. Saab Automobile AB, founded in 1945, produced quirky designed cars, often preferring a unique engineering approach. It was also stereotyped as the preferred cars of the intellectual and sophisticated elite. Ultimately, Saab never escaped its niche market to move the kind of volume it would need to stay afloat by itself. The first production model, the Saab 92, was launched in 1949. In 1968, the parent company merged with Scania Vabis, and 10 years later the Saab 900 was launched, in time becoming Saab's best-selling model. In the mid-1980s, the new Saab 9000 model also appeared. It was part of General Motors until 2010 and was sold to Spyker Cars that year. This was short-lived, and in 2011 it went bankrupt. In 2012, the company was rescued by the Chinese-Swedish-Japanese company National Electric Vehicle Sweden, but in 2016 it was liquidated. Number 1. Oldsmobile. Olds Motor Vehicle Company was formed in 1897 by Ransom Eli Olds, and the cars were officially called Olds Automobiles. While later thought of as a stodgy brand, Oldsmobile is responsible for several major advancements in technology. It pioneered the first mass-produced car, and was the first manufacturer to offer its customers a fully automatic transmission, a speedometer, an automatic choke, automatic headlight dimming, and a head-up display. It gave us the first production car to use a microprocessor to run the engine controls. It was also the first American car company to export its vehicles. Renowned for its groundbreaking technology and design, Oldsmobile also achieved success in NASCAR with the Rocket 88 and 442 cars. When General Motors closed the company down in 2004, Oldsmobile, having produced over 35 million cars, was the oldest American car company. This channel, the Top 10. Thank you for attention. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.